my name's Lori Mackay, and welcome to the 2019 SDP Buffalo Ranch Cutting Futurity Show. We're here in Tamworth, New South Wales at the beautiful equestrian center called ALEC. And I'm very pleased to say that I'm here with two fellow competitors, Mr. Heath Sinclair.
Thank you, Lori.
And Jackson Gray. Welcome, boys.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to be here again. Heath, can you tell our listeners what is actually cutting?
Cutting is actually where horse and rider enter a herd of cattle. They have to separate one beast from that herd, and once they've separated that beast from the herd, they put their hand down on the horse's neck, and then the horse has to block the cow on its own using aids from the rider with their legs, and they've got to hold that cow out from the herd in a fashionable way, and it sort of happens over 2.5 minutes, and they can cut 2 or 3 head, and they get scored on their run.
And Jackson, could you just explain to everybody what is a futurity?
Well, a futurity is, of course, for 3-year-old horses, their first ever show. It's not only is it a show with the most amount of prize money, it's also their very first show. They may have had 2 years training to get here. It's the first time we actually get to see what they do.
That's right. And Jackson, just back to you again. You're actually the NCHA Vice President, and your portfolio is judging. So could you explain to everybody how the scoring system and judging system is for cutting?
Well, it's a little complicated, but to put it quite simply, it's judged between we had 5 judges, 3 scores here. Each judge scores between 60 and 80 points, and they come to that score by obviously giving credit for things like controlling a cow, the way an individual cuts their cow and how smoothly they do that, and they also then have takeaways if you lose a cow or if you quit a cow that is still challenging your horse, etc. So yeah, it's quite complicated, but it's all about controlling a cow.
Yes. And Heath, also, you won the 2009 NCHA Futurity. Just tell us a little bit more about how tricky and difficult it is showing such a young horse.
Well, in 2009, it was sort of my 3rd year as a professional trainer, so you've sort of got to have a lot of confidence in your horse, and the horse has to feel a lot of confidence in you. So you probably can't over-exaggerate any one thing when you're showing a horse. You don't want to override them in the wrong spots, but you still want to let them show their expression and natural ability towards the cow, which will show off their style. Yeah, a 3-year-old, the more confidence a 3-year-old can have, the better you'll have a show run on them.
Jackson, also for some of our listeners, we're going to go through some of the runs now that have just happened in this futurity event, but also our viewers will see that it's not only the cutter that's involved, there's 4 other people helping. Just explain about what we call the herd holders and the turnback men.
Well, that's the most unique thing about our sport, and I think it's probably the best thing about our sport. In order to show your horse, you have to have 4 helpers, 2 in the herd, beside the herd of cattle, and then 2 turning back, bringing your cow to the horse when you've actually cut it and selected that one beast. And these guys and girls, they're your friends, they're your peers. Not only do you have faith and confidence in their ability to do their job and trust, but you've probably got to spin around and help them in a minute as well after they've helped you.
That's right.
That's the great camaraderie in our sport.
Exactly. And it's just, I think we ought to also talk about, I always think this is probably one of the most difficult sports that you can take on, because not only do you have to get yourself right as a person riding and a trainer, then you have a fragile young horse to ride, and then you've got to pick the cow. Now, Heath, you've always been in my corner for many, many years. Tell us about what we go through just trying to study and pick the cows for what we're going to compete on.
Well, when we're trying to find the right cow for what we class as our winning run, constructing our winning run, I like to look for an animal that is very comfortable on its own. When a horse that is settling the herd is riding towards that animal, it just moves away from that horse in a very sensible manner. I think a lot of cattle, they have their different kind of what we call a bubble, their own personal space. Some cattle have a very big bubble, so you can sort of not get too close to them. Some have a smaller bubble, and you can get a lot closer to the animal. I think when you're looking for cattle for a winning run, sometimes you've got to see what cattle have worked well previously in the horses before you, whether you need to cut one with a bigger bubble or a smaller bubble. Sometimes you needed a bit quicker cow, a bit snappier cow. Some cattle tonight were a little bit number than we thought. Some cattle were a little more feelier than we thought.
That's right.
So then you sort of had to mix and match what cow was going to be the right cow for your winning run.
Oh my God, I never realized it was so difficult until we start to talk about this. Now, let's just have a bit of fun and let's run through some of the runs that we've seen tonight in this excellent event. What do you think basically of, I'd like both your opinion on this, what do you think basically of the standard of this year's Futurity? Jackson, I'll start with you.
Well, I think it's been incredibly high. There's no doubt. I saw many 3-year-olds throughout the year in pre-works and saw their preparation and saw how they came along, and you could see it was going to be a strong year. So yeah, I think not only the standard of the horses, but the standard of how they were shown, it was very high.
Yes. Heath, what do you think?
Yeah, this year, I think everyone's excelled. Every year, we've got to go home, work harder for the next Futurity, because every Futurity is a bit stronger each year after the one that was previous. The horsepower is getting stronger, the breeding's getting better. It's just such a unique sport. It is the only equine sport in the world where the horse actually has to think for itself. Every other equine sport across the world, someone's hanging onto their head, whereas our sport, and it probably doesn't get mentioned enough, our sport is you put your rein down and then the horse has to take over. Like I said, the standard is getting stronger and stronger every year because the bloodlines are coming in from America. We've got great broodmares, and it's just getting stronger and stronger. And I think we're not far off being the American standard.
Yes, and can I just emphasize that all of this happens within 2.5 minutes too. So that's what's, you've got the timing of the run, all that so much comes into it. So we could talk for hours just about all this, but let's run through some of the runs. So the first horse we're going to look at is the first horse that was out, and her name is Hellish.
Now Hellish, she's a SR Instant Choice, bought by SDM Court Horses through the NCHA sale here a couple of years ago, and she's out of the great mare One Hell of a Spin. And to my knowledge, I believe One Hell of a Spin is the only mare to win the Futurity now and then produce the Futurity champion.
Yes, that is very exciting, isn't it? And purchased for SDM Quarter Horse Stud by the trainer that's riding it, Mr. Todd Graham.
That's right. Todd and I had a discussion about the mare when she was going through the sale.
Yeah.
And I actually thought when she went through the sale, she probably looked the most like One Hell of a Spin body type wise that we'd seen. And they come out on top.
Now, Jackson, we've just started to cut our first cow here. What are you sort of seeing here as on the first cow that the judges are looking for?
Well, I can tell you he did pretty well, because being first out, we were talking about the bubble a cow has. These cows are still a little feely, a little uncomfortable, and his cow didn't allow him to drive it at all up the pen and be safe, and he still managed, because his horse was so neat and so comfortable, and because he did such a smooth job, he was still able to maintain control and be smooth and not have any disasters or any takeaways.
No, I thought he got a little lucky there, actually, just that nothing didn't flush out, what we say, flush out from the herd.
Yes.
How about you? Tell us about the second cow, Heath.
Well, I'm in Todd's help team in the corner, and we watched the cows together. Yeah. And we had some picked out, and when he rode down the timeline, those cows looked really, really bright. So Todd, being a great showman that he is, took his time, found his first cow, and we had this orange woolly cow picked out, and I think it started to make his run right here.
That's right.
It sort of started to set up in the middle. The mare looked at the cow right in the middle of the pen there, and he was able to quit on this side, but I think that was probably the run that really, the cow that really got the attention of the judges.
Now, just something you said, quit on this side. Jackson, explain a quit, because you can't just go off a cow whenever you like, can you? What are the rules saying about when you quit a cow?
Well, a cow must be either turned away or stopped still for you to be able to legally quit it. And as far as quitting it to the centre of the pen, that is desirable. So quitting a little bit to an edge, not ideal, but not terrible either.
What's the penalty if you do make what we call a hot quit?
3 points, of course, per
3-point
judge.
penalty. So that's a pretty heavy penalty, isn't it, that can happen. But now here we are just finishing up, 5 seconds to go. What would you like to say about this last cow?
Last cow finished the run. It just hit him in the middle of the pen. When we say the middle of the pen, the middle third of the pen. We've got 3 sections of the pen, the outside sections on one side, the outside section on the other, and the middle of the pen is right up the middle of it. And that cow there, the Hereford cow, is a great way to finish his run. So I think the first cow, it didn't sort of set up. It probably wasn't a cow we actually looked at.
Yeah.
But Todd, being the showman he is, he stepped through there. The cow that we liked was too feely, so he kept going to the next one that he felt was better for him to show on. And then that second red woolly cow, it got his run Started a lot better than his first cow and got the attention of the judges. And that third cow started hitting him in the middle of the pen, and the mare got left and right, very even on the cow. And that finished his run off and left a good taste in the judges' mouths.
So Jackson, he scored a 219, so that's 3 judges marking a 73. Is that correct?
That's right, on average. So we have a 5-judge system, and we of course take out the highest score and the lowest score to get that average. And yes, a 219 would be 373.
Well, that's a very good first horse out mark.
Absolutely.
But yet very doable to get around or whatever. So I think that the judges, were quite game to mark that horse but as it turned out, thank goodness they did.
For sure.
So then we go to horse number 2. Now this is Hewitt's Metallic Million.
Yeah.
This is a little mare, again shown by Todd Graham and owned by Jack and Kelsey Hewitt. Do you know the little story about this little mare, Heath?
Well, I think this mare was an orphan foal.
Yes.
She, her mother must have died when this little mare was on her.
Yeah.
And they've reared her. She's a metallic cat out of a smart little Scotty mare. And like we said, her mother died when this mare was on her, and they've raised her, so she's what we call a potty reared horse.
Yes.
And I thought this mare through the go rounds looked really good.
Yeah.
She was stepping up from the first round. The second round, she looked even more intense on the cattle, which means prick-eared, really keen. And I thought this mare had a really good shot at winning tonight.
That was a beautiful first cut, wasn't it, Jackson? That much better first cut than probably Todd had on the other horse.
Absolutely, yeah. He probably thought here at this stage that he might be able to sneak around his other run, because of course he was in the second set down late. He was leading the cutting obviously at this stage, but yeah, he really got started good. You could see that the horse was really controlled the cow towards the centre of the pen, very bright, very clean moving, everything that judges desire.
Yes. We have different expressions too for how we describe the cow. I'd say that was a pretty soft cow to start off, which is always a very good idea with these young horses, isn't it? It's always, they're so fragile that it's quite good to build on a run with these young horses. That was a beautiful cut, gave them a lot of confidence. Again, Heath described this cut.
Yeah, this was a heifer that Peter Schumacher himself had her eye on. She'd been up a couple of times on other people's cuts, and once again, like Todd, it's a great shame to come through there from the middle of the bunch, and he cut it so smoothly. And when we say smoothly, his hand wasn't waving around. He was very smooth, driving towards the cow with his reins. Very rarely you see Todd rough with his hand. And this cow sort of, I thought he could be going around his other horse that ended up winning it, but as you see on the second cow, that there was a good reason probably why he ended up in second spot and didn't go around that horse that won it.
That's right. Now, Jackson, would you like to also explain the horse connection to the cow? They can't go past, they can't be behind. Just explain maybe a miss, what we call a miss.
Yeah, well, as I said before, it's all about controlling a cow. So to be even on a cow, for a horse to mirror the cow's movements, that's desirable. That's what we want. And you could actually see there in the run, that horse beat the cow through the turn a little bit, which then forced the horse to have to go and recover. And that's where you get those little 1-point deductions and take away from controlling a cow. Again, it's all about controlling.
Yes. And Heath, we could just to wrap up on that, you could just see that third cow went off to the fence, and that's what made the difference between that and the first run.
Yep. The first run was in the middle, 3 cows in the middle. I know the cows behind the first horse were getting around a bit too feely, but you can see in that run there, he got over to the fence on that third cow towards the end of that run, and that just probably took him back to second.
Just didn't quite finish it up. So this is Lindsay Wheatley now going in. I must admit, Lindsay, one of the only women to make the final. We only have 2 professional women cutting horse trainers in Australia, and I really was hoping, she has 3 finalists in this event, and I was hoping Lindsay could bring it home for the girls today. Tell us a little bit about her mare, Sugar Ray.
Well, this little mare, Peter Sugar Ray, she is by Kit Kat Sugar, and I thought she was one of the hot favourites going into the final. I saw this mare through the rounds, and I thought this mare had a lot of ability, and if she had got the right run tonight, you can see here as she's sort of starting to crouch and swoop through there, that she's got a lot of style, and I thought she was one of the contenders. But as you can see there, she had a little slip. Jackson, would you call that a little miss, or?
Yeah, possibly. It's a little bit of a loss of working advantage, loss of control. But yeah, I agree. I think this is one of the standout horses. She's incredible, and of course out of a mare that Lindsay won the Classic Challenge on here a few years ago.
Who was by Dulray.
That's right, yeah.
You know, you say she had a little miss there or whatever, but see, I thought that mare did a great job to recover from that because, I mean, it could have been all over from there. But according to the rules that, you know, you have to be consistent with the rules, and they would take that as a little bit of a little penalty. Tell us about this next cow.
Well, coming forward there in the cut, we talked earlier about how smooth Todd was. Lindsay was a bit rougher with her hand coming through that herd there. The cow's setting up really well now, but it didn't leave a great taste in the judge's mouth coming forward to cut this cow.
This mare has a beautiful style of weight on the cow, doesn't she? She has
does.
that stillness. We like to see that intensity in those moves. So it's hard here. Now this is where all the different fine points of judging is coming into it.
Exactly.
Jackson, you know, you've got a great horse making some great moves, but having some little mistakes.
That's right. Well, it comes down to there's some fundamental things that you've got to do. You've got to control your cow in the cut. You've got to control your cow when you've got your hand down. And it's only then that it comes down to things like the eye appeal or the attractiveness of the horse, the amount of time worked, the difficulty of this cow. This is a very tough cow.
Very cow. And they'd be looking, they do have on their score sheet, a part that says courage, don't they?
Absolutely.
And this is courage on that last cow, isn't it?
And as you can see, like that little 3-year-old mare, she's so quick, very quick to get stopped and swoop through there. But if you can compare Todd's run to that run there, there was just a bit of difference in the showmanship coming through the herd to get their cow cut. Todd set the run, set the scene. Lindsay come through there just a little bit rougher with her hand.
Yes.
And it just didn't leave as good a taste in the mouth. And there was just a couple of little issues that went on through her run that brought the score down and didn't take it to the championship.
It's just amazing, isn't it, the fine things that can happen during a run. So again, this is Yavin Spinacat, ridden by Todd Graham. This is a wonderful story in our game, isn't it? Would you like to tell us about that?
What a great story this horse is. He's a metallic cat colt out of a mare called One More Romance, who is actually by a stock horse called Hazelwood Conman. And that mare was out of the great One More Spin, who we talked about earlier on. This horse went through Landmark a couple of years ago as a 2-year-old, made $130,000, bought by the Hewitt family. Is that right?
Hughes
Family,
Pastoral Company.
Hughes Pastoral Company. And he comes out, he won the second go-around, and he had the highest aggregate going into the final, come through here, and just showed so good. Once again,
That's a beautiful cut,
Look at
isn't it?
Todd's cut there. And maybe just there right at the start, he may have just knuckled over in the back end, and that's what made his head come up. But look at the horse work now.
Yeah, this is a really, really swift, neat little horse, isn't it? You know, I saw it. I remember watching it in the second go-round, and I was really surprised that I guess I hadn't seen it before, and it was one of those ones that took my eye for sure.
It is really fun too. We've gone through, they're all good horses. I mean, they're all good horses, but how unique all the styles are as well. Now this horse is just what I call the most beautiful horse to ride around the property. He's a beautiful type. He's got a wonderful temperament, and he is just so graceful moving on a cow. Now, Jackson, with the judging, do these styles come into it?
Well, yes. Like I said before, I mean, it comes down to controlling everything to begin with, but there is a little bit of room for, I guess, preferences of styles, but at the end of the day, a horse like this that's going and it's getting stopped good and square on its ends, it's waiting for a cow, it's turning around, bringing its nose first through the turn. That's the efficiency we want to see, and that's why that efficiency or a good style is given credit.
There's also, Jackson, on the judging sheet, a column that says eye appeal. And all of these horses definitely, would there be ticks in eye appeal, even though they've had little mistakes and things like that, they definitely, we're seeing some of the better horses in the field, aren't we?
Sure.
But there was so many of them. But again, just to finish up, Todd's got 15 seconds to go on this. Heath, run us through here on this cow.
Yeah, he come to me just before the run. He said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I like the little yellow Hereford." He said, "You don't think it's too much cow?" And I said, "I've seen it do some really good things, and I'd cut it myself." So when he turned around after his second cow, it was on top, and as you can see, he's drove it up. Probably the cow of the final, I believe. I was in the middle, turned it into him, kept the horse's intensity, and it just finished his run off in a very, very strong way.
Well, guys, we've seen some great runs there and some really good horses. How fine it can be between first and sixth or whatever the placings are. But I think maybe something to summarize that we could say there is you really never know a cow till you cut it.
Exactly right.
Is that right?
That's right.
We're going to just finish up here on a really one of the stars, I thought, of the Futurity, and she has had a little bad luck here, and which is unfortunate. This is Corey Holden riding the great little mare called Gardelicious. She has a good story too. Her mother is a top competing mare in the cutting horse ring. Let's talk about some of the things that this mare is doing during her run.
Yeah, well, she's by Razor Garter, who Corey owns the sire of this little mare, and out of a mare of Ian and Lisa Hindmarsh's called Duckalicious. And this mare's got so much style, so much presence in front of a cow, and I thought he was actually lining up to have a winning run. Like, he gets his cow cut here, it's in the middle of the pen, he's probably a little bit long to his right, but once he gets centred up, this mare, she's got so much presence and intensity in front of a cow, it started his run off extremely well.
She really was one of my favorites, I must admit, through the go-arounds. She just has such a beautiful intensity. Look at that, that little quiver there in the middle that was really fun to watch. She really did have the audience on the edge of their chairs with this. Here we're starting to just get a little bit in trouble, aren't we?
Yeah.
Not a desirable quit.
No, the cow run to the wall, and the American judges and the judges that judged our Futurity were very strong on trying to control the cow in the middle of the pen. Once he left the middle of the pen there, it sort of, his run started to go down. But the great work he done before that, I still think they were thinking this man's a good little chance to win this.
There's a thing called run content. Would you like to explain that a little bit, Jackson?
Yes, well, it's simply as it's stated, it's the content of the run. It comes across. There's numerous boxes in which a judge has to fill in, and eye appeal is one of them you touched on before. This horse is sure as hell got plenty of that.
Definitely.
But whereas, say on this cow, for example, degree of difficulty. Well, it sort of seemed like it wasn't that strong there, but then that cow kind of kept turning into him.
That's right.
Those are the things that the judges are trying to work out. But that mare just switched off.
That was
a
just
major
the
penalty.
big mistake.
Released the cow, didn't she?
Yeah.
She was having a good run, and that penalty there is what took her out of the cutting.
That's exactly what took her out of the cutting. And look, it happens. I mean, they're young, very frail horses, just lost a little concentration there, just sort of the intensity of it all. And she just sort of lifted her head and said, gee, I'm just a little lost here. And that can happen so often with these young horses. And that's, again, we'll just repeat on just how frail they are and how intense these 2.5 minutes are on these young horses when you're showing, because anything like that can happen.
And I can't wait to see this mare come back to Toowoomba in a month's
Yes.
time, but also as a 4-year-old here in the
That's
Derby
right.
next year, and then 5-6-year-old the year after. She's going to be something to watch, that mare there.
All of these horses, the 20 horses that we had here in the NCHA Futurity Final 2019 have all been very, very good horses. I think the judges did a great job at getting the right horses to the final. And as we can see, it all comes down to a little bit of luck, finding the right cow, the right showing, and it certainly has been an excellent event for this year. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed all the things that we've talked about with the cutting. We could go on all night about it. It was a great event, and we hope to see you all again back at the 2020 NCHA Futurity Show here at ALEC in Tamworth.